Discover the hidden Israelite ancestry of some of the most powerful nations on earth. Watch as Scripture unveils the terrifying future of America and Great Britain as revealed through the Sabbatical and Jubilee years. Discover the identity of Assyria and its role in this final Jubilee cycle. Learn of the pending judgments that are to be soon poured out as a result of transgressing the sabbatical years. Sighted Moon.
So we're talking about the great enlightening of mankind. Now we mentioned this on Monday. We told you about this symbol for Norse. Now this symbol comes back in here, and by the time I got to the end of my putting stuff back in this morning, I said, there's that symbol again, but I don't have enough time to make comments on it. Remember this? It's a symbol for Thor. It's a symbol for Tuesday, right? It's the meaning of to shine. So we're talking about the great enlightener today, and this is his symbol, to shine. It's often portrayed as a lightning bolt, and you know this as the hammer of Thor. And the hammer keeps coming up. Professor Waddell wrote that he felt that the tar, T-A-R, is a rendition of Thor. He continues, the name of this weapon and pictorial sign are of significance. Its sign pictures what is regarded as a thunderbolt with an arrowhead, and it appears to be the same weapon which is carried by Sumerian Hercules, the top of which is sometimes figured as a cross. Okay, so now we're going to start looking at the Great Enlightenment. How did this come about? And Jehovah Elohim commanded the man, saying, eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die. Genesis 2:16-17. So we were not to eat of the tree of good and evil, but we did. One very simple command from Jehovah. That's when we had perfection, unhindered relationship with him in the garden. We don't have that today. Take a good look at this candle and watch it, because this is a fading candle. It will go out. Not in my screen here because it's not motion picture. This is what we're going to be tracking through history, because the light that we're looking at right now is the false light. The lighting of candles was done once a year. It's symbolic of Nimrod, symbolic of Satan. Once a year on the same night in honor of the sun, the burning of lamps in Babylon. This practice has been exceedingly prevalent. This was where Judah was taken during the captivity in pagan Rome. The same practice was observed. And Rome is where the Catholic Church was and is set up to this day. And the daughter of that church continues to light candles. You see them every time they light them to pray for the dead. Don't mar your beards. Don't tonsure your head. Don't put on tattoos. Don't cut yourself. Well, so we light candles for the dead. No, you're not supposed to do that. Genesis 3:1, and the serpent was more crafty than any beast in the field, which Jehovah had made. And he said to the woman, is it true that Elohim has said, causing doubt, do not eat of every tree in the garden? So the question I have when I read that, why would Eve be so stupid to talk to a snake? Why not just talk to the spider? No. That word for serpent is nahash, a snake. Now here's something I learned when I was doing my notes. I wanted to comment on this, but I didn't have time because I had to put everything back in. The word is hiss. Hiss. Who was saying to me yesterday about he hisses for Israel? Hiss. He also hisses for Assyria, the serpent. Isn't that kind of neat? I just realized that last night. Now, it also in Chaldean corresponds to copper and brass. So in the same way, seraph in Isaiah 6:2 and 6:6 means a burning one. And because the serpent mentioned in Numbers 21 were burning in the poison of their bite, they were called seraphim or seraphs. But when the Lord said to Moses, take thee a fiery serpent, Numbers 21:8, he said, make thee a seraph. And in obeying this command, we read in verse 9, Moses made a nahash of brass. Nahash is thus used as being the interchangeable with seraph. The Nahash, or serpent, who beguiled Eve, is spoken of as an angel of light in verse 14, right here. Have we not in this a clear intimation that it was not a snake, but a glorious shining being, apparently an angel, to whom Eve paid such great deference, acknowledging him as one who seemed to possess superior knowledge, and who was evidently a being of superior, not an inferior order. Moreover, in the description of Satan as the king of Tyre, it is distinctly implied that the latter, see there's that Tyre-Tar connection here, that the latter being was a supernatural order when he is called a cherub in Ezekiel 28. His presence in Eden, the garden of Jehovah, is also clearly stated, as well as being perfect in his ways from the day he was created till iniquity was found in him, and as being lifted up because of his beauty. So now if a seraph is used as a serpent because its bite was burning, and it is also a celestial spirit being, a burning one, why should not Nahash be used of a serpent because of its appearance was shining, a shining one? So we're talking about Satan here. We cannot conceive Eve as her holding a conversation. Like that's stretching it. Women are afraid of snakes. Like, come on. But if she was talking to an angel of light, one who looks like Jehovah, it would make sense, right? I think I'd be talking to it. I think y'all would. You know. But the test is, what is he saying? The wax candle, in fact, is a hieroglyphic. It's a symbol, like so many other things which we have already seen, and was intended to exhibit the Babylonian god in one of the essential characters of the great mediator. One of the symbols of Satan is that he is nothing but a fading light that comes and goes. He has no staying power. Yeshua, on the other hand, does. So when we look in the stars, all the stars that represent Satan, that are called Satan in the sky, they shine and they disappear. They shine and then they disappear. And sometimes they shine bright and they disappear. And we're going to be looking at some of those today, because you're going to see, because when you read the stars, which the prophets all did, you're told what is going on. All the stars in the sky that represent Yeshua are brilliantly bright and never fade, never disappear. They're always there, always visible. So here are some symbols of Satan's. They are being used to represent Satan. But they don't know it. The great enlightener. So Catholics, Buddhist monks, and many other religions all light candles to worship their God. And that God is Satan. And I just wonder, because I know where these come from. This practice comes from lighting a candle in your window in Egypt. Check what you do. Be careful what you do. Here's another tradition, the Yule log. The classic reader, this is from Hislop, again, 2 Babylons. The classic reader may remember that one of the gods of primeval antiquity was called Oranos. Oranos, that is the enlightener. In this very character was Nimrod worshipped when he was deified as the sun god. He was regarded not only as the illuminator of the material world, but as the enlightener of the souls of men. For he was recognized as the revealer of goodness and truth, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. Traditionally, a Yule log was burned in the fireplace on Christmas Eve. And during the night, because this is the darkest time of the year, as the log's embers died, there appeared in the room, as if by magic, a Christmas tree, Remember that? I remember that. How did it get there? I went to sleep and the next morning it's there. Boom. The Yule log represents the sun god Nimrod, and the Christmas tree represents himself resurrected as his son, as his own son, Tammuz. Satan as Nimrod is turned into the Christmas tree. Just remember these symbols as we go forward, because they're all around us to this day, and they started back there in Babylon. The first and only commandment Jehovah gave to man was challenged by the shining one, Oranos. The result was death, theft, destruction. And do you think the written covenant of Jehovah, do you think that's going to be challenged too? Because today we're talking about that great covenant that Satan has made with you. You didn't know you'd signed on yet. We can only see deception by knowing truth. That's the only way. By reading your Torah. Not by listening to DVDs, not by listening to people come around that got the speaking engagement, not by listening to me. Because I've been telling you from the get-go, I'm nothing, I'm nobody. It's this, it's him. That's all. If you're following a man, you're lost. Nobody's following me. None of you are following me. Because I'll kick you real hard if you think you are. Most of the Bible tells us about the time that is coming upon us. And this week you've learned a lot about that. On the Day of Atonement, the high priest had to choose lots to know which goat was the Azazel goat and which represented Satan, and the other goat, because he couldn't tell the difference. At Passover, you could use either a goat or a lamb, and it was killed just as the goat at Atonement was. The goat at Passover represented Yeshua. The goat that's killed at Atonement represents Yeshua. The goat that's set free represents Azazel. He's not the scapegoat because Satan has twisted that around to think that he is the one suffering, and yet he didn't do nothing. He is the guilty party here. So here's a question for you. Which one of those is Yeshua and which one is Satan? If you said the one on that side or the one on this side, you're wrong. They are both Satan. They are both Satan. Notice the symbol of the sun god here on this one. It's all around his head. That's what the halo represents, the sun god. Satan is trying to be like Jehovah and is trying to impersonate him and trying to come across as him. Satan is depicted as a goat because of atonement on the left. But you'll notice his hand signs are very often the same signs as this guy uses. But he comes as what the world calls Jesus to the Christian world. And I'm sorry if that's going to shock you. Good. Get off your pot and study this out and prove it. Stop being lied to. You don't have time anymore to be an idiot. Time to figure out if this is true or not. Yes, I'm crude and I'm rude, and so what? Figure it out. Because if I'm right in what I'm saying, in just 6 years, you can only tell the difference when you go to the commandments and then do them. Do them. So here's the basic foundation. We can even reduce that down a little bit more. To love Jehovah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Who said that? Yeshua. What's the second commandment? Because it's like the first. So that's the first one. That's the first one. Everyone forgets to do the first one. We're only going to keep the second commandment. To love your man as yourself. The first one encompasses these 5, these first 4, whatever you want to call them. The second commandment encompasses the last 6. Now I know here in this room I'm singing as a choir, but for you folks watching this at home, you better start singing. Because this is the one that Satan has subtly corrupted. Right? All you Protestants, you're going to keep that one. All you Anglicans, you're going to keep the second one. Let's go back to the first one. All you, whatever church you want to name, you're going to keep Which ones are you not going to keep? Yeah, you don't want to keep the fourth one. And all you Seventh-day Adventists, they'll all point you out. You don't want to keep the Leviticus 23. And all you Messianics who think you're so good because you're keeping the Hebrew roots, you're getting closer to Jehovah, you don't want to keep the Shemitah year. Time to wake up, folks. Time to wake up is now. The fourth commandment includes the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath, Leviticus 23, all the holy days, and Leviticus 25, the Shemitah year. Figure out when it is. I have the information. Prove it wrong and keep your own Shemitah year. But keep it. Boy, those cookies are kicking in. I'm getting wound up now. Remember, the angel of light, he's been working throughout history. He's been slowly breaking down and breaking apart Jehovah's commandments. He comes as an angel of light. He comes looking at the Messiah like the Messiah. He comes, he fills stadiums with 60,000 people in the morning and 60,000 people in the afternoon. Where are the people that want to keep the Torah? Where are the people that want to obey Jehovah? His works, Satan's works, look good, but in fact they're evil. And because what we're going to talk about here, that covenant looks good. Oranos then, the great enlightener, this is what they picture him like in mythology. He's also called the Most High. The shiner, and this is a quote by Hesychus, says that he is made, the shiner is made equivalent to Chronos. Remember us talking about Chronos earlier this week? Which also has the same meaning for KRN. The verb from which it comes signifies either to put forth horns or to send forth rays of light. And therefore, while the epitaph, well, the other nickname for Chronos, or the horned one, had primarily reference to this physical power of Nimrod as a mighty king. Remember it says the mighty hunter Nimrod? When that king was deified and made Lord of the heaven. Whoops. Nimrod, the mighty one, now he's Lord of the heaven. What happened? That name Chronos, remember Chronos, it keeps coming up everywhere we look in ancient history, was still applied to him in his new character as the shiner and the lawgiver. Now he's impersonating Jehovah as the lawgiver. The things we're talking about today, well, I say my notes cover both Christian and Eastern religion, but they actually cover all religions. The same false light, the Kundalini spirit, the chakras. You've heard of chakras? The chakra spirit. We're not even going to talk anymore about it. But you see the halo in the Middle East, in India. These are the horns of light. They represent Nimrod, the great Oranos, the great lawgiver, Chronos, the son of Ham. And he's also called Cush. Now, we also have someone else to look at here, the mother of all living. The mother of all living, because that also plays a big part in what we're talking about today. The mother of all, who is the mother of all living? Many people say Eve. Okay, yeah, but no, not for what we're talking about. The mother of all living was Noah's wife. Right? Now in mythology, I believe she becomes Semiramis. And that's sort of why I think her name's not mentioned in the Bible. So now, we got some dry stuff to go through here. So we're going to do that. We got some more dry stuff later on, maybe this afternoon. Hopefully I'll get most of it done this morning. Oranos was the first ruler of the universe. Really. Created by Gaia. Whoops, there we go. Remember that name, Gaia. It's going to continually come up today. when she emerged from the chaos. When was the chaos? That's the flood. Who is Gaia? She comes out of the flood. Oh, okay, clues everywhere. Oranos with Gaia became the father of the Titans. Whoops, the mother of all living. And so if she's the mother of all living, then this guy must have made out with his mother. Oranos with Gaia became the father of the Titans, the Cyclops and the, whatever that is, the 100-handed ones. This is ancient mythology, but ancient mythology tells you stories. Tie them into your Bible. Oranos was afraid that some of his children would rebel against him, so he imprisoned them within Gaia's earth womb. That's death and captivity. Kronos, the youngest of the Titans, freed his siblings by so now Kronos is made to be the hero. That's Cush. By castrating his father, Oranos, blood gave birth to the Furies, and Aphrodite was born of the discarded member when it fell into the foaming sea. There's all kinds of mythology stuck together here. And this event takes place over about maybe 50 years. Huge events are taking place at this time, and whole migrations of people are happening on the earth. So notice, Gaia is the creator of Oranos, the ruler of the universe. Gaia emerges from chaos. The chaos was the flood, and Gaia is the mother of all living. Then the earth, Gaia, and the light, Oranos, become father and mother. Many of you have seen this picture. It's a painting from the Middle Ages. It's of Venus as she comes ashore from the Euphrates after the flood. Venus is coming ashore after the flood. This is Noah's wife, Semiramis. She came out of the chaos of the flood and is the mother of all that came after her, including Ham, who had Cush, who is also known as Kronos, and he had Nimrod. This picture is the classical Greek earth goddess Gaia, Gaia, Mother Earth, the mother of all living. But she also has some other names that we're about to learn about. In Greek mythology, one of the most important Olympian gods was Apollo. Okay, looks like some of my notes are disappearing. He was concerned with prophecy, medicine, music, poetry, and pastoral arts. He sounds like a good god. A moral god of high civilization. He was associated with law, and philosophy, and the arts. He was widely known as the god of light. Another name is Phoebus, Apollo. And after the 5th century BC, he was often identified with the sun god Helios. In Roman tradition, Helios was simply translated by the Latin word sol, S-O-L, meaning sun. But this sol was also sometimes called Phobos, a Greek word meaning shining, which is also a traditional name for Apollo. In classic Latin verse, it was customary to refer to the sun as Phobos in his car or chariot. Remember, we've talked about that? Do you remember that? I was still scared when I was telling you that. But one can't always be sure, especially when ancient religion texts which connected Apollo with the sun were also common knowledge. Things get mixed up in history. Despite this, the identification of Phobos, the sun god, with Phobos, Apollo, had become standard in Victorian times. That's 200 years ago. Apollo's oracles had great authority. His chief shrine was Delphi, where he was primarily a god of purification. In art, he was portrayed as the perfection of youth and beauty. Oh, you don't get it? I just got it. I didn't have it in my notes. I missed that. What does Isaiah say about Satan? The perfection of youth and beauty. He was perfect. The most celebrated statue of him is the Apollo Belvedere. Listen, a marble copy of the original Greek bronze, now in the Vatican. Of course it's in the Vatican because that's where God lives. Wow. In Latin, it was customary to refer to the sun gods as Phobos in his car or chariot. Do you remember this? Come on, this is so cool. Look, there it is. Phobos in his chariot going, oh, we call it, no, he had another name. It's called Vulcan. This is Thor in his sun chariot. The Vulcan hammer on the left is the same as Thor's hammer. The 4 hammers spinning in the air, the swastika sign. The arrow, the tar, the tire, it's all connecting here. Wow, it's amazing how the more you learn, the more you connect everything together. It just keeps coming back. The destroyer. Remember this in Revelation? The destroyer. And they have over them a sovereign, the messenger of the pit of the deep, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek his name is Apollo. Apollodon. Slap my britches, that's amazing. The false light, the fading light. Yeshua is the true light. What happens on this day? The last day of the feast. Yeshua stands up and speaks about being rivers of living water. The light of the earth. Go and read it. Oh, it's such a great teaching. Daphne was extremely beautiful in Greek mythology and was loved and pursued by Apollo. When on the point of being overtaken by him, what was he about to do? He was about to rape her. That's what this great religion of peace wants to teach you, that they are a religion of peace. They come in the name of peace and they want to rape you. They get it from their God. When on the point of being overtaken by him, she prayed to her mother, Gaia, who opened the earth and received her, and in order to console Apollo, poor Apollo, he just got ripped off for raping that young girl. She created the evergreen laurel tree Daphne, of the boughs of which Apollo made himself a wreath. Here we have Pan pursuing Daphne. Now, for those of you who've been with me, do you remember when we went to the Church of Pan? Yeah. To the Church of Pan. And right beside it, they built another church. And then a synagogue. And this is where they used to throw their children into what they called hell, which was a big water that didn't have a bottom. And Yeshua comes there and puts a curse on it, and it caves in, and that place is gone now. The water still comes out of the ground. But guess where that is? That's Tel Dan. Wow, no wonder the Irish have so many screwed up teachings, mythology. Here we have Pan pursuing Daphne. This is from the Roman mythology taken from the Greeks. Pan is teaching his laws to her, teaching her how to sing his song. Pan is the god of nature, the wild, shepherds, flocks, goats of mountains, and is often associated with sexuality. Pan is just another version of Apollo. And here's Apollo being likened to a goat. Yeshua is the light. Yeshua is the light. Matthew 5:14, you are the light of the world. It is impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain. And if you, not if, you are that light of the world, you cannot go home and put a bushel basket over your head. You have to stand out and let your light shine, because it only shines. Remember all the lights last night in the dark? Man, it was hard to trip over anything because you guys, I was trying hard to fall. No, you got lights everywhere. It's awesome. That's you. Your lights need to shine out in the world. That's you. That's Him in you. Luke 16:8, and the master praised the unrighteous manager because he had acted shrewdly, because of his sons of the age are more shrewd in the generation that the sons of light are. What did we say yesterday about the great deception that's coming? They're smarter than us. John 8:12, therefore Yeshua spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall by no means walk in darkness, but possess the light of life. John 9:5. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. But he's not in the world right now because Satan is the ruler. But Satan is trying to pass himself off as Yeshua. People think they're praying to God when actually they're praying to Satan. He will be shining, sparkling. He will feel good, look good, sound good. He has his own commandments and his own covenant. The false light appears to be Yeshua. So how are you going to be able to tell the difference? Through the testimony of Yeshua, by the keeping of the commandments of Jehovah. Keeping of his Torah is crucial to be able to tell the difference. So we got to know that Torah, and you better be studying it and learn it. So on the Day of Atonement, one of the reasons I've already said this was because you cannot tell the difference between Yeshua and Satan. The two goats, they look exactly alike. Which one's which? It's hard to tell. Matthew 24:24, for false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. So if I'm a false prophet, let's assume I am. I could be. And because of that, I double check me all the time. Because I don't want to follow me just in case I'm wrong. But you have got to prove the things that I've shown you this week, true or false. You cannot just believe it because you had fun this week. You must prove all things. Prove all things. The Day of Atonement's telling you something. Every year you keep it. It's not just about the atonement and being forgiven your sins. It's also about not knowing the difference between goodness and evil. How do you tell? The Torah. Satan is that fading, invisible light. You don't know unless you start to study. So here we are in Daniel 9. We've done Daniel 9 from 24 to 27. But we skipped this part in Daniel 27 because it's a huge thing to see. And it's not always obvious, but now you're about to see it. Now you're going to understand it. For the first time in 2,500 years, Daniel's message is being understood. Now people have said that a gazillion times, but I think you can prove that true now. So we're going to be talking about the covenant. The covenant made with many. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. What's that week? You all know that now. That's one Shabua. 149-year period. And I had to come back and read that 20 times before it sunk into me. Because I was trying, and this is what people do, and I did it too. I tried to force fit this understanding into my Jubilee cycle. And it didn't fit, but I was trying to make it fit, and I thought, man, what am I missing? What am I missing? But when I step back and look at what the covenant was, it is a 49-year covenant. Wow. So what is this covenant? Where is it? How did we sign up to it? How did the beast power, how does he make this with everybody? Okay, so we're going to explain that now. But here's something else. And in the middle of the week, he shall put an end to slaughter. So we talked about that yesterday. So that was the thing that threw me off. The covenant is for 1 week, but in the middle of the week, he cuts off. And I thought they were the same week. So there's a clue. They're not. But I thought they were. So we've shown you this week that this covenant, or this Daniel 9 prophecy, the 70 Shabua, the 70 weeks, started at the Exodus. Okay, we went through all this. So this teaching is one I give without giving everything else that you guys have had all week. So I don't need to repeat everything again. But it starts at the Exodus. It starts with the burning bush. And now from there you count 70 Shabua, 70 Jubilee cycles, and you end up at our day today. So the completion of the 70th Jubilee cycle is 2045. That 70th week is this week. This 49-year period from 1996 to 2044. And there's the math laid out for all you people with math degrees. Just to double check me, make sure I got it all right. Don't forget to add 1 year for the year 0, and you will arrive at 2045, the same as I did. The Exodus is the 50th Jubilee cycle, and 2045 is the 120th Jubilee cycle. 70 and 50. So this last week, the last Jubilee cycle, the last 49-year period began in 1996. And in the middle of it is 2020. That's directly in the middle. So that saying says in the middle of the week, so in the middle of this week, this covenant or this people will be cut off. But the covenant has to be 49 years. So I'm trying to force that covenant for this whole sabbatical cycle. But it says it's going to be cut off in the middle. But I'm still trying to make it fit here. And it's busting my brain. Yeah, I even give myself headaches. So we're looking for a covenant made with many for one Shabua. And so, see, I'm starting in 1996. My stuff is evolving all the time. So here's the people that made this covenant. The United Nations. When did they do that? I'm not going to tell you yet. When they made the covenant, they then added to it, and this is the part that is, you got to read this stuff. And you know what? I don't have alarms long enough for it filled this room with all the papers they put out and all this stuff. It is so overwhelming what they have come up with and done. But I told you before, and I'll repeat it here again, the United Nations covenant that we're talking about began with the first Geneva Convention back in 1851. 3.5 Jubilee cycles before it ends, which I thought was stunning. Interesting. But this covenant is always made concerning war. How to have war with civility. How to fight and kill each other and do it in a nice way. So we got the Geneva Convention, the first, second, and third. Then we got the Hague, first, second, and third. Then we got the League of Nations. And then we get the United Nations. All designed and implemented for having a peaceful war. Oh, wow. This is Eleanor Roosevelt. You recognize her. And she's got the Universal Declaration written in 1949. The Declaration of Human Rights. The Human Rights Declaration. That is a noble, honorable cause. And we should all support it. Have you read it? Okay. Where is he going? Where is he going? What's he doing? I don't understand. How's this all tied in together? I hate this. He starts off in one place in the beginning. I don't know what he's talking about. He gets to the middle, something completely different. I fall asleep, and when I wake up, bam, there it is. Okay, remember all these pieces because they're all pieces of the same puzzle, and they all fit together like a glove. I love it. It's amazing. How long can I hold you in suspense? Is time for lunch yet? No. Okay. And we're doing real good because I think I'm ahead of schedule. The United Nations Environmental Program, the UNEP. Now see the UNEP? I hate it when people do that. You guys do it on Facebook. LOL, ROFL. I don't know what that one is. SMH. No, it's this one. Or are my eyes. RME, I don't know. You guys drive me nuts. Speak English. But they do the same thing. UNEP, what's that? I don't know. It's this. The United Nations Environmental Program. Now they change this every meeting to a different name. That's why it's so hard to follow. It changes. You're going to see some of those changes. I think they work on Facebook. The first United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, the UNCHE. Whoops, that's not there. Oh, they already changed it. The first write this down. The first United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, UNCHE, was held in Stockholm, Sweden, from June 5th to June 16th, 1972. Wow, isn't that great? No, you don't know yet. Representatives of 113 countries were present, as well as representatives from many international non-governmental organizations. I can feel that sugar kicking in. I'm ready to start dancing. Intergovernmental organizations and many other specialized agencies. This was the first United Nations Conference on the Environment, as well as the first major international gathering focused on human activities in relationship to the environment. And it laid the foundation of environmental action at an international level. Whoa. Okay, you still don't get it. You got that blank deer in the headlight look. Okay, let's keep going. This is huge. 1972, June. Mark that date down, write it down. Put a big circle on a star. And then put UNEP, UNCHEP, UNCHE. Doesn't matter, we're going to change that 15 more times here. This is huge what just happened here. Oh, Father, help them to see this stuff. Help them to understand, because this is so huge and it's so big. Help them to understand this. Open up their eyes. This is big stuff. The United States has worked long. The United States has worked long and hard over the past 18 months to help make the conference a success. Representatives of 113 nations met. This is the letter from your White House. Together for 2 weeks to produce an impressive number of agreements on the environment, on the environmental principles and recommendations for further national and international actions in this important field. This is June 20th, 1972, right after this conference. You know who this was. I am proud that the United States is taking a leader role in international environmental cooperation, and I congratulate our U.S. delegation on its success at Stockholm. The government and people of the world must now work together. The whole world must work together to make the objectives of Stockholm Conference a reality. I am not a thief. Wow. Okay, whoa, you don't get it. Oh, man. The Stockholm and Rio Declaration. This is the Agenda 21 stuff. This is the Rio stuff, RIO. This is the Rio plus 20 stuff. They keep having, right now in Ottawa, Canada, we have the meeting, I think it's called Davos. D-A-V-A-O-S, Davos. What does that mean? I don't know. I just found it this morning. They're meeting in Canada. They're having another meeting about the environment so they can change how you live. Oh, wow. The Stockholm and Rio Declarations are outputs of the first and second global environmental conferences, respectively, namely the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment in Stockholm, June 5 to June 16, 1972, and the United Nations Conference on the Environment and Development. Whoops, here we got a different number, UNCED. Now they've changed the name again. Oh, I'm getting so confused. In Rio de Janeiro, June 3rd, 14th, 1992. And I'm looking for something that happened between 1996 and 1944. I wasn't even looking at this. 1972. Other policy Other policy, or this stuff is so boring to go through and read it until you get to the heart of the matter. And when you get to the heart of the matter, you're going to go, OMG. Other policy or legal instruments that emerge from these conferences, such as the Action Plan for Human Environment, so that's APHE, as the Action Plan for Human Environment at Stockholm and Agenda 21 at Rio, are intimately linked to the two declarations conceptually as well as politically, and I don't know what they're saying. However, the declarations in their own right represent signal achievements. I guess that's supposed to be significant achievements, adopted 20 years apart. They undeniably represent major milestones in the evolution of international environmental law, bracketing what has been called the modern era of international environmental law. Slap my britches, this is huge. And they still don't see it. The whole world is involved in this. Your city, your state, your municipality, your little farming community that you live in has signed on to this. Your kids are doing this at school. The environmental projects, let's go save a tree. Okay, you still don't get it yet. Okay, let's march forward, Joe. At the 1992 Earth Summit, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, representatives from 178 countries, including 108 world leaders, forged a bold new vision for development. Sustainable development. Whoa, now we got a word to describe this. Sustainable development. The vision embodied in Agenda 21, which came in 1992, and the Rio Principles, marked a major shift, calling for the full integration of environmental, social, economic. Well, I thought this was the environmental movement. For the full integration of environmental, social, economic dimensions into developing planning. Who did you elect to do this? Nobody. Yet you all agreed to it. Who did you vote into office? Nobody. But they signed on your behalf. So we've gone from 113 at Stockholm now up to 178 who all want to participate in sustainable development. You have green areas that you cannot develop. What's he talking about? What's he talking about? He's hurt my head. Just get to the point. Just get to the point, Joe. No, not yet. I got to lead you a little bit further down this sickening path. The number of countries joining this covenant then grew to 190 countries at the Rio Plus 20. When was Rio Plus 20? Just a few years ago. Save the earth, Greenpeace, hug a tree, chain yourself to a tree. Stop the production of pollution, all that. Yes, they have good sounding overtures. 113 signed up at Stockholm, Sweden. 178 signed up at the Rio Summit. At the Rio Plus 20 Summit, we have 190 countries. The United Nations Assembly is made up of 193 countries. They have 206 on record, but those other countries that are not part of this are about the size of an egg. You know, it's a city-state. So they don't really count. 190 of 193 countries signed up. And guess who didn't join up? Canada! All right, Canada. So what do? All the municipalities, all the cities, and all the provinces, they sign up. But Canada didn't. Canada did sign up, and then they backed out. So Canada and the United States have not signed up. Those are the only two. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. 1 Shabua. So we have many, in fact, we have all of the world participating in this. 1972, right here. You count 49 years. Going from the left because I'm trying to get your Hebrew brain working, because most men only work with the one side. So we've got to get the other side working, and the women only work with that side. And I know it's confusing. You use two sides of your brain. I have trouble doing that too. 1972, go forward 49 years. And you end up at, there's that date that keeps coming up all week long. Oh, slap my britches, look at that. 49 years. So I, when I first seen this, was trying to fit it in here. But when you step back and stop trying to force fit a piece into the puzzle and let it just fall into place. What I say the date was June. June. Don't forget that. He shall confirm a covenant for 1 week. 1 Shabua. 1 49-year period. And it ends in 2020 again. I got to change that color. I got to put fireworks coming out of there and rockets and boom. It's unbelievable. And I didn't set out to try and prove this all the time. I didn't set out to prove this. I just wanted to know when the Sabbath was, or the Shemitah was. The UN covenant is made with 190 out of 193 UN nations. This covenant must be a 49-year period of time. So June 1972 to June 2020 is 49 years. Something else to consider about this date. Seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen, the plane's about to get rough. Adjust your seatbelts, hold on to your socks. June 1972, June 2020, Pentecost in 1972 was May 21. 1 week and a half before the conference study. Shavuot 2020 is May 31. Okay, we don't know when the barley is, but maybe it'll be close. It is amazing to me that this conference began so close to Shavuot. Why? I don't know, but I think someone's got a bigger plan than most of us give them credit for. And as I showed you yesterday, I could be wrong. This could change between now and the next time you see it. But I believe the 2300 days of Daniel 8 begin at Shavuot in 2020. This is not written in stone. That's a moment. So this 49-year period of covenant ends in 2020. What happens? What I showed you about 2020? What's going to happen then? The world's going to go to war against you. Against you, Makar. Now, that Human Rights Declaration that we showed you, it's now been amalgamated into the environmental movement. So it's been pushed in here, so they put them together. So we now have the environmental movement. See, the social part is the human rights part. And now they've been put together. There are some great teachers out there that teach this. I used to think that this was a conspiracy teaching. Therefore, I'm not going to look at conspiracies teaching because that's all crap. And when I actually started to look at this, I realized there is a lot of conspiracy stuff in here, but you separate that stuff out, and when you look at just the truth, just the bare bones facts from the United Nations, not these websites that got all this aliens and marshmallows flying around. Just look at the bare facts. And you're going to get a chill up your back, or down your spine, down your arms. Your hairs are going to stand on end. The human rights stuff that's been put in here, everyone signs on to it. Everyone signs on. These human rights are developed from the Geneva I Accord, Geneva II, Geneva III, Hague I, Hague II, Hague III, Hague IV, the League of Nations, and the UN. All on how to kill people in a nice way. Everybody signed on to it. But guess what? Balaam. Oh, there's Balaam. Oh, you're not Balaam. But Balaam's got you guys buffalo because you're making out with a woman. You're making out with a Moabite woman. The Moabite woman is this covenant. Get them to worship another god. Get them to break their laws of their God, and God will kill them himself. What? How? What? How? The human rights issue, what you call your human rights, are actually rights that are anti-Torah. They are anti-Torah. Read them. The same rights as a married couple as a gay, bisexual, transvestite, and lesbian. They have the same rights. You're not allowed to say that out loud, politically correct. Frankly, Scarlett, I just don't give a hoot. Because if I don't say it, no one else will. And yet that's the thing that we are protecting by this charter. This charter also protects a number of other things that the Torah does not say to do. And guess what? The only people that are doing it are Israelites, because the Muslims aren't. The Muslims rape and kill just because. They kill civilians, they shoot civilians, and they terrorize civilians, which all these agendas and human rights issues say not to do. But they'll sign them until it's inconvenient to them, and then they'll just do what they want to do anyway. But we will try to uphold these things. Go and read the agenda or the human rights covenant, because it's called a covenant. It's not that long. You can do it in 10, 15 minutes even. So here we have the 2300 days of Daniel, starting at the end of this covenant with many. Then we go to Shavuot and trumpets, then the two witnesses, and then Passover, Shabbat Shuvah, and then the Great Tribulation. It all connects. And I wasn't really trying to do that, but it did. So, you've learned this. I don't have to repeat this. You got this. You're certain. Now you got to go prove it. That's fine. Prove it. Remember who we're talking about here? The great and mighty enlightener Oranos, Satan. So now we got to start jumping back and forth. Oh no, I can't keep up with the way he's doing it now. Now we're going back and forth. But keep this in mind. We've been told by Yeshua beforehand that Satan is going to try and impersonate an angel of light. And he's going to do it subtly. And this is so subtle. This environmental plan is so subtle. It's amazing how subtle it is. Have no fellowship, Ephesians 5:11, have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness. Yeah, but he's got a candle. He's got 2 candles. Oh, he's got a whole bunch of candles. Have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Expose them for what they are. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to expose this impostor and his covenant, and we're going to go through a lot of history to come up with the present day. And I've already cut, at this point, 100 slides out, and I know that makes some of you mad. That's okay. So it's going to be boring and dry, but okay. So what stands in the way of creating an international law, or a law for everybody around the world to observe and keep together? It's called national sovereignty. In order to get around national sovereignty, what these people have done is they've come in the back door. And they get we won't get the nation, but let's get every province and state and city in there to sign up. So the states that do sign up must be prepared to cede some sovereignty to world bodies in the international system to function. This is written by the Club of Rome. And I thought that was conspiracy. And then I started to read the actual things that they put out on their own website. And I went there this morning because I lost a lot of my stuff because all the pictures from here on out were gone. And they've changed again. But their basic doctrine is still the same. They must destroy national sovereignty so that the international laws will take effect, and then all laws and mandates will come forth out of the United Nations alone, a world government body. So now you're starting to see these lofty goals are taking a more sinister look, or taking on more sinister ambitions. These people are making the laws that affect your life. I didn't elect them. You didn't elect them. And they're affecting me in Canada right now. My business had to have certain things happen to it in order to stay in business. It is becoming such a headache to own a business because you got to keep your safety records, your environmental records, and your accounting records to match what they say at the UN. I live in Canada. What's going on? What is going on? Go and look at your own city. Go and see if they've signed on to the environmental program of the United Nations. Just check. There's actually a place you can check at the UN to see if your city or state or province has signed on. So this is right out of the Club of Rome mantra. The common enemy of humanity is man. This is a part of Agenda 21. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we got to have some common foe to fight together. They came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All of these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy is then humanity themselves. Wow. Do you see what they just said? Did you even catch that? Let's go back. What are they saying here? We're going to make all the stuff in the environment and blow it out of proportion and cause you to get behind the environmental movement. Wait, stop. Where are we in the timeline of Jehovah? We are in the last Jubilee cycle. Jehovah is sending curses on the environment. What's the second curse? I will make your sky like iron and your fields like brass, or I'll make your sky like brass and your fields like iron. Either way, they're going to be hard. That's drought. That's extreme weather. That's the second curse, and it's manifest, continues throughout each of the other curses. It's compounded. And now the environmental movement is going to use that same disasters that Jehovah is sending to unite us against Jehovah. Did he ever slip that under the door real easy? Wow. Yes, pollution is wrong. We shouldn't be using water bottles, but we just do. And I've tried to get away from using any plastic for a day, and I can't. It's everywhere, and plastic doesn't deteriorate. It just stays around and collects other poisons, and we eat it when we eat the fish, and it's killing the birds. Yes, the environmental stuff, we need to smarten up. We are destroying our home. But we've also, at the same time, flipped the finger to Jehovah by worshiping another Yah, Baal, Dea. Water shortages are being sent by Jehovah. Famine is being sent by Jehovah. He sends it to get us to turn back to him. And yet these people here, Satan, Apollodon, is telling us these are the things we're going to fight against because we want to protect the environment. It's so clever, so sneaky. And it seems so good. So what exactly is the Club of Rome and who are its members? It was founded in 1968 at David Rockefeller's estate in Bellagio, Italy. The Club of Rome describes itself as a group of world citizens sharing a common concern for the future of humanity. It consists of current and former heads of state, and the names of who's who on this list are astounding. Go and look it up. I'm not going to name them all. There's just too many prominent people here. The Club of Rome subsequently founded two sibling organizations called the Club of Budapest and the Club of Madrid because they're trying to hide. They keep changing the name. They call themselves different things every year, and you can't, it's hard to trace them. But you can. And it's just hard. And you know, there's their circle of stuff that they're doing. The former group, the Club of Budapest, is focused on social and cultural aspects of their agenda, while the latter concentrate on political aspects. All three of these clubs share many common members and hold joint meetings and conferences. So it's the same people at the same meetings discussing the same things, but we just got different things to hide under. Go to the website. The Club of Rome has established a network of 33 national associations. That's the snake sleeping underneath the sleeves. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Membership of the main club is limited to 100 individuals at any one time. Some members, like, well, we won't name them, Mr. Al Gore, Mr. Maurice Strong, are affiliated with, through their respective national associations, USACOR, CACOR. The COR is the Club of Rome. The USA is the USA, and the CA is Canada. Well, I just figured that out. I now know how to spell LOL. SMH. Look at what's going on right now. And they've wrapped it in the environmental movement. In the early 1970s, a book was published entitled The Limits to Growth, a report of the Club of Rome's project on the predicament of mankind. Its conclusions were stunning. It was ultimately published in 30 languages and sold over 30 million copies. Guess what? They got the United Nations supporting them to do this. The United Nations pushing out this propaganda, getting it out there, and people just swallow it. According to a sophisticated MIT computer model, what's MIT stand for? I don't know. The world would ultimately run out of many key resources. These limits would become the ultimate predicament of mankind. And now we have people storing seeds, and we have people buying up the special minerals which you need for your tanks and airplanes and bombs, are now all controlled by China. What you are seeing and will continue to see is how these groups change names and identities and continue to push forward this covenant that we are in. And this is why it's so hard to uncover. It has also covered up the false teaching of the conspiracy stuff, mixing the truth with blatant lies. And I've tried very hard to steer clear of any conspiracy connections. But the moment you bring this out and you wrap it in a conspiracy teaching or a conspiracy thing, a conspiracy, you discredit yourself to the person that you are trying to teach, that you are trying to bring along to understand, because they now think you're a nutcase. And then all your truth is now a nutcase truth. And your testament to Jehovah becomes a nutcase testament. Stop with the conspiracy garbage. The real goal of the Earth Charter is that it will be, in fact, become like the Ten Commandments. This is Maurice Strong. These are his words. The Earth Charter, that's what this covenant has now been called after Rio. It's now called the Earth Charter. So they've changed the name again. All of these environmental disasters and books on the environment and man's survival led to the gathering in 1992 known as the Rio Summit, the Earth Summit. Out of that comes the Agenda 21, the UNCED, also known as the Rio Summit, Rio Conference, Earth Summit. Why do they got to give it so many names? Why can't they just take one name and stick with it for 49 years? Make it easy for us to follow. Agenda 21 is an action plan of the United Nations related to sustainable, you'll hear that word sustainable from every political leader and even the Pope, because they're all in for this. Sustainable development, and was an outcome of the United Nations Conference on the Environment and the UNCED. R-O-M-I-Is. Held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1992. In 1996, this Agenda 21, which is a soft law, and that's what I thought I was looking at because it matched 1996. And I was missing the other half. It was a soft law. That means it's just a suggestion. So the soft law is, if you go through this door, we recommend you don't. Now it's becoming a hard law. If you go through this door, you're going to jail. But guess what? Your elected officials didn't make that a law. Some guy and a bureaucrat that's not elected in the United Nations did. And yet, you're being arrested for going through that door by your own police force. It's changing, and it's right now, it's in your own cities. So it was started off as a soft law or suggestions in 1992. It was then codified and made into national law with penalties and fines that are enforced in a court of law. It is a comprehensive blueprint of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the UN, the governments, and major groups in every area in which humans directly affect the environment. Check your own municipality. 172 governments participated, with 108 sending their heads of state, some 2,400 representatives of non-governmental organizations attended, with 17,000 people at the parallel NGO Global Forum who had consultative status. The issues addressed included systematic scrutiny of patterns of production, particularly the production of toxic components, so it sounds like they're doing something good for the environment. Okay, I won't bore you with the rest of that. Maybe I will. Let's see, where am I going? So yeah, they give out awards now. They give out awards for the most environmental city. Who's participating? When your kids go to school, we have Environmental Day in May up in Canada. All our banks are in it, and you go into the bank, there's all these that save the environment, save the whales, save the fish, save the birds, save this, save that, and then save some money here too. So we have all this stuff going on. And your kids, as low as grade kindergarten, are involved. The Kyoto Protocol was initially adopted on December 11th, 1997. Remember the Kyoto Accord? There was a huge stink about that. Canada wouldn't sign it. In Kyoto, Japan, and entered into force on February 16, 2005. As of September 2011, 191 states. How many states are there? 193. 191 states have signed on and ratified the protocol of the Kyoto Accord. The two that have not, Canada and the United States. We got a problem coming, folks. We got a problem coming. The Kyoto Protocol participation map. This is the map that the Kyoto Accord has as of February 2012. Green indicates countries that have ratified the treaty. Brown, no intention to ratify. Those two. Actually, that one, because this is red, and this red one is the only one that's withdrawn from the treaty. Go Canada! I love my Prime Minister. Do you know what's happened in Canada? You guys know that? Us Canadians do. Our Prime Minister is standing with Israel. He's defending Israel every time he speaks in the United Nations. And guess what? You guys had a recession. We never noticed it except we read it in your headlines. Go Canada. But guess what? We got a new guy coming along. And he is going to get in on the coattails of his father, young Mr. Trudeau. Guess who his advisors are? Muslim extremists. And he doesn't like Israel. And guess what? Our next election, I'm not sure when it is, whenever that takes place, he may just get in because of his popularity. If he gets in, I think it's time to leave Canada. Because we're going to get the same curses you're getting for going against Israel. So these are all the nations of the world that have signed up to this thing and are a part of it. The gray has no position taken, and I don't know what purple is. I didn't write down purple, but that's Russia. So now, here's the key. Well, it's part of the key. It's all one big key. Here's one of the clogs in the key to turn the knot. It's religion. It's religion. The real goal of the Earth Charter is that it will, in fact, become like the Ten Commandments. We've read that. Notice that. Mother Earth. Mother Earth. How many of you go around saying Mother Earth was mad today? Mother Earth sent a tornado this way. Mother Earth is raining on us. Do not say Mother Earth anymore. Don't say Mother Nature. Don't say Mother anything except Mom, can I have a cookie? When you say Mother Nature, Mother Earth, Gaia, you are flicking your finger to Jehovah and you are going after this false god. Unknowingly, but now you know. The Gaia movement, Mother Earth. This is from James Lovelock. We have inherited a planet of exquisite beauty. It is a gift for billions of years of evolution. We need to regain our ancient feeling for Earth as an organism. We need to regain our ancient feeling for Earth as an organism and revere it. Again. Whoops. Gaia has been our guardian, Gaia has been the guardian of life for all of its existence. We reject her care at our peril. Whoa. Stand aside, there's going to be a bolt of lightning coming. We can use technology to buy us time while we reform, but we remain accountable for the damage we do. The longer we take, the larger the pill. If you put trust in Gaia, Mother Earth, it can be a commitment as strong and as joyful as that of a good marriage. Wow, he hasn't seen all these marriages. One where the partners put their trust in one another. The fact that they are mortal makes that trust even more precious. These are the architects of the environmental program that the United Nations has taken on. We get the word Gaia and we get this geology from it, geophysics and geochemistry. The holistic idea of the earth as an integrated whole, a living being, has a long tradition. The mythical Gaia was, and we've already talked about her, was the primal Greek goddess personifying the earth, the Greek version of Mother Nature, or Earth Mother. And James Lovelock gave this name to his hypothesis after a suggestion from the novelist William Golding, who was living at the same village as Lovelock at the time. Golding's advice was based on Gaia, G-E-A, an alternative spelling for the name of the Greek goddess, which is used because he didn't want to offend everybody if they thought it was a Greek goddess thing. So we'll just call it Gaia instead of Gaia. From the Apollo Gaia Project. So that is now what Agenda 21 is called, the Apollo Gaia Project. Or Agenda 21 incorporates the Apollo Gaia Project. What does the sun represent? Apollo. And what does the earth represent? Gaia. This is a statue of Gaia. And there's the different names that she has used over the centuries and the different mythologies she's involved in. The personification of the earth and the goddess of earth, Gaia, also known as Gaia or Gi. But to the Romans, she was also known as Terra Mater and Tellus. According to Diodorus Siculus, her name was also Tetea. Tellus or Terra Mater was an ancient earth goddess. Tellus was later identified with the Greek Gaia and the Phrygian Sibyl. Oh, now we got a new name, Sibyl. Her temple dated back as far as 268 BC, situated on the Esquiline Hill. Oh no, where's that? Oh no, that's Rome. Each year the Romans honored her with 3 festivals: April 15th, August 21st, and December 13th. 3 times in a year you shall go up. Oops. This is where we get Easter from. This is where we get Mother's Day from. Oh, no, not Mother's Day. I thought that was safe. Sibyl. This is the 18th century statue in Madrid. This is Sibyl, also known as Rhea Demeter Ceres, the mother of all. The mother goddess, Kybele, K-Y-B-E-L-E, was a Phrygian mother goddess who was worshipped in Greece and Rome. She had often been equated with the 2 other Greek mother goddesses, Rhea and Demeter. Sibyl was so revered that she was often called the mother of all, the great mother of all the gods, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Wow! Where's her halo? So here we have something here taken straight from the Apollo Gaia Project for global warming. That change in land use, so they're trying to determine how you can use your own land, your land, here in the United States or in Africa, the same. They treat it the same. It's not yours. It's only yours for a little bit. It's theirs to control. Because you signed the contract. It's now theirs. That change in land use is damaging Gaia's immune system. What? And accelerating the weakening of the capacity of the whole Earth system to cope with the effects of climate change and to evolve appropriate biological response to the crisis. The United Nations is gearing up to remove you from your land because you're not going to listen. You already have court cases here in the United States. The United Nations wants you to destroy 3 dams. I believe it's on the Colorado River. Don't hold me to that. I'm not sure anymore. They want you to take down 3 dams so that the fish can go up there and make out and swim back down without have to go up some steps around a dam. It doesn't matter that there's $1 billion industry on each of the lakes behind those dams. Fishing, hunting, recreation, camping, cottaging, recreation, boating, even big cities. And you take away those dams, there'll be no water for those cities. We don't care. The fish got to get up there. Yes, it may be funny when I say it, but it's not funny at all. Because they're putting the emphasis on Gaia and not on humans. So this is the thing I had to wrestle with, whether this was a fact or whether this was a conspiracy thing. So I went straight to the source. And here's what they're trying to do. While liberal journalists continue to claim that Agenda 21 is just a conspiracy theory being advanced by right-wing crackpots and International Union for the Conservation of the Nature, that's the IUCN, and the International Council of Environmental Law, ICEL, have released their fourth draft of the International Covenant, the International Covenant on Environment and Development. So while people are talking about this being just another nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to take away a dam and destroy this industry. In Alabama, I believe, is the only state that has banned all United Nations stuff around Agenda 21. The whole state has banned it from all of their city-states and municipalities. That's the only one. But the others are starting to recognize the dangers of this covenant. Because it's taken away, and the big thing down here in the States is your civil rights. Your right to own land. Your right to own guns. Your right to go fishing and hunting when you want. They're taking it away. Go and listen to, and I'm not a great speaker, go and listen to some of the great speakers who teach on this subject. Search Agenda 21, and I think her name is Karen somebody. She lays it out for you black and white. So Agenda 21, this document was designed from the beginning to convert the soft law, non-binding Agenda 21 into firmly binding global law enforceable through the International Criminal Court and or dispute resolution features of the Convention of the Law of the Sea. I thought these were just suggestions. Good ideas. Let's have a garbage can. Now, if you don't throw it in the garbage can, we're going to throw you in jail for 20 years. Now, here's where they get really clever. When the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon announced his plan to fundamentally transform the global economy, he's getting really ambitious here, based on low carbon, clean energy resources, few realized he was calling for a new global tax. Oh, now I got your attention. We're talking about your pockets. The UN's one nation, one vote system. Oh, you missed it. The United Nations, of which you are a part of, has one vote. You have one vote. How many Islamic nations are in the United Nations? They dominate the place. You don't. You just say, yes, reach in and give them money. Yes, reach in and give them money. Wake up! The UN's one nation, one vote system has been used since its founding to render the U.S. impotent. That means you are useless. Regardless of the fact that you are its major financial donor. Banning the press and global tax opponents from its July 13-14 tax design meeting. What? No press allowed at this meeting. Freedom of speech, transparency, where is it? No, we're going to do this in the back room. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Oh no, what do we do? How do I do? My head hurts again. For example, it is anathema to democratic process, but the UN is not a democracy. The UN is not a democracy. You have one vote, and yet you support it the most. Pull out your money now. Please. It is unelected bureaucrats use a collaborative decision-making process to reach consensus with no debate or expressed opposition. The purpose of the fund is to enable the UN to implement its global blueprint for sustainable development called Agenda 21. This green agenda is the new Marxism that requires government to ensure economic equity. What does that mean? You give us your money, I'm going to take your money and give some of it to these poor nations so they can be the same as you. To mix it up and make everyone equal. Because everyone's got human rights and everyone's equal in the eyes of Gaia. It's taking the money from the rich. This is Robin Hood, right? Taking the money from the rich and giving it to the poor. And who are the poor? The Islamic nations. Because they spend all their money on bombs. No, we don't. We're the nation of peace. It's a religion of peace. I tell you, yes, peace, peace. When there is no peace, I understand that. Granting the UN the right to tax would be like giving it a blank check for future use. 2 years ago, it estimated the cost at $6 billion annually for the next decade. Today, the estimate is at least $1.9 trillion annually for the next 40 years, or $76 trillion. It's the UN. Why do we need so much money? Because they're funding something else. On June 9, 2011, President Obama signed his 86th Executive Order. EO 13575 is designed to begin taking control over almost all aspects of the lives of 16% of the American peoples. No, you got freedom of rights. You got freedom of speech. No, you don't. Your Bill of Rights is on fire and nobody's doing anything about it. The thing that you have paid for blood and sweat and tears for the last 300 years is for nothing. Warning bells should have been sounding all across rural America when the phrase sustainable rural communities came up. As we know from researching the UN Plan for Sustainable Development known as Agenda 21, these are code words for the true fundamental transformation of America, of you, McCurr. We're going to hog-tie you, and once we got you hog-tied, then we're going to come kick you in the head. And then we're going to turn around and kick you again and kick you again until you're dead. He comes in like an angel of light, and he's so subtle, and it all sounds so good. Current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class involve high meat intake, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and workplace air conditioning, and suburban housing. And these things are not sustainable. You got to go live in a tent in order to be sustainable. A shift is necessary, which will require a vast strengthening of the multilateral system, including the United Nations. Wow. Agenda 21, the UN Blueprint for Global Transformation, sounds good to many people. Drafted for the purpose of creating sustainable societies, it is being welcomed by nations around the world. Political, cultural, and media leaders have embraced its alluring visions of social justice and a healthy planet. We all need to do this to save the planet. They hide the lies, they hide the religious implications behind its doomsday scenario, and you thought I was talking doomsday this week. I'm telling you what is coming, and I'm also telling you how to get around it by being obedient to Torah, by being obedient to Jehovah, by keeping the Sabbath, the holy days, and the sabbatical year. And if you do that and pray, He will keep you remembering the Sabbath day. He will keep you in the palm of His hand. You are etched. Remembering means etched. You are etched in the palm of His hand. Stay there. Keep the Sabbath, keep the holy days, keep the sabbatical years. We have more to do here. It's lunchtime. Let's have lunch. We'll be back here at 2. I'm almost done, so it's going to be a short afternoon.
Joseph F. Dumont explores every question about the Sabbatical and Jubilee years in Remembering the Sabbatical Year 2016. In order to understand the truth, you have to expose those things that are not true. What is left is then the facts. Remembering the Sabbatical Years examines all the theories put forward as to when the sabbatical years were, and then using your own Bible shows you how to be able to prove it for yourself. Once you do this, then you too can understand prophecy and in what season the Messiah is to come. Filled with groundbreaking insights, Remembering the Sabbatical Years of 2016 is both a source of wisdom and practical knowledge on an important yet complex subject and a necessary guidebook for prevailing through today's times. The Creator of the universe has set upon His creation a construct of keeping time, and within that construct of keeping time, He has also given certain instructions. These markers of time have everything to do with prophecy as well, for they are the language by which boundaries are set and milestones are crossed. Prophecy affects every living human being on the planet, and so the reader becomes the main character in this book. We have, for all the world, an example of a people who kept and also did not keep the Sabbath years as instructed, and you will see what happened to them in each of these cases. You cannot afford to be ignorant of these things. The curses for not keeping the sabbatical years are happening now all around us, and they are getting worse. We are to wrestle with the Word to get the truth. Get your copy today and begin to understand world events today from a biblical understanding.